Hello guys and welcome to my new video. This one is about the small versus big corporations. Which ones are better? Which ones are worse for you? I've been employed in big ones, in the small ones as well. I've been doing telecoms, banks, consultancies, hedge funds, some startups. So I've sometimes wondered if I made the right choices working for the companies that I did, because I hated the big ones because they were full of bureaucracy. But when I started to go to the small ones, sometimes the issue was that people were not really up to scratch with really bad attitudes. So I would think like there are some negatives and positives in both of them, and I would like to go over them. So maybe you can help me with that. There are some generalities that I will use, obviously. So please don't take this as an ultimate thing. And in case if you scream, but that's not true, my company is different. Yes, it might be different, but in general, they are usually pretty similar. So let's start with the big companies and their positives. Number one, you have a stable job. If you don't screw it up by deploying bad code to production, for example, Citadel, or there is a deep recession, your job is usually safe. It costs loads of dollars, pounds, euros, whatever, to hire and fire people, so companies don't like to do it. At worst, you will probably be reassigned to a different team, and you can still survive there. So that's number one. Number two, they use decent technology. It's usually not the best, the newest. It's usually the stable one because they move a bit slower. But that's the advantage there is you have the learning curve is not so steep. You have some time to learn into it. People know the technology a bit well. Stack Overflow has loads of help as well. Just don't overdo it with copy paste and try to understand what you're copying. And number three, one of the big ones, there is a possibility of travel or being reassigned to a different office. If you want to try something new, you want to visit or live in another city, with big corporation, it's much easier to do it. Or at least it was. Current situation is a bit strange, but who knows? And they will sponsor you a lot to get there. So opportunities for travel are good there. Some of the negatives for the big companies. Number one, career progression is very slow. Like really slow. There's plenty of people that are competing for the higher up positions. The people are more valued on the number of years they spend with the company instead of their contributions. So might try to be like the best programmer ever, show up interest in management, or show interest in being architect, whatever. There are still people in front of you that will be promoted. It's very hard to skip the queue. And the hierarchy of positions is quite tall. You have like your juniors, then you have your mid-level seniors, then you have like the leads, then you have like your architects or line managers, then you have their managers, then you have like another bunch of managers, and then you have high up managers, and then you have probably CTO and a CEO. So it's like 7-8 levels minimum. The hierarchies are huge there. Number two, you will get bored after a few years of doing the same things, as the technology upgrades are very slow and are stunted by the compliance and some sort of IT governance board. Yes, they have that. So if you try to push some nice new technology that's not approved and has not been reviewed from legal perspective, this perspective, if not all of the IT managers from all the bank or consultancy, wherever you are in, did not chime in and fill in like, yes, this is good, you can do it. Be prepared to fill in loads of Excel spreadsheets with pointless and confusing questions about, is this approved, is this good, is it license is okay, will it affect us in any way, do we have access to the source code, do we have access to this and that. That's really painful. I've seen that I've seen an Excel spreadsheet with about 80 questions. Most of them, if you look at them, they were almost impossible for an average developer to fill in. Like, you would need a few more people from other departments to help you fill it in. It's so hard. And number 3 for me was the social life is usually very poor. Like, you have colleagues, they do their job, and then they go home. If you socialize, okay, it sometimes does, but usually people just do their work and go home, they're fed up with this. The company usually doesn't want to sponsor anything because the company is big. So maybe for business trip, for certain class of like certain teams, maybe there is a bit more leeway. But for IT, it's usually like, nah, do your work, bye-bye. And a bonus one, most of the big companies now are woke. And if you don't subscribe to the victimhoods of some groups, you might run into problems with HR, which is itself filled with victims. So you get what you pay for. So now for the small companies, the positives. Number 1, your career can explode if you try. Like, you can grow exponentially. Like, in few years you can be in a position that it would take you 10 to 15 years in a big company. Small companies don't have budget for specialists, so people have to cover more roles, so you can show off more skills, and with that expanded workload that you can take on, you can get more responsibility, and you get noticed much more by your managers, by your CEO. You can actually talk to your CEO, which does not usually exist with these big multinational corporations. Or if it exists, it's just like stage something, like there is 80 people on the call, and it's like nobody wants to ask anything almost. The technology is usually much newer, so if you like to put some nice stuff in your CV, or the AWS has this nice technology, I want to use it. I want to start my blockchain, whatever thing in crypto. We want to be Kubernetes Helm expert. Very easy. You convince your boss that you want this technology because it's the best invention since sliced bread, and then you can get into it. Like, okay, download it or try. Okay, if there are some costs involved, we might discuss it, but otherwise it's fine. Just go ahead and try it and get us the benefits. And the next one is the social life actually exists. Because the teams are much smaller, the company is much smaller, you get much more social life. You get like your pubs, which are the standard bars if you're not in UK. You do barbecues, you do trips, you get experiences and much more. Like you will enjoy your social life in a company there, like a lot. And that's mainly because bosses care about their people much more, because they are much harder to replace. If I have a team of 10 people, okay, one goes, can survive. If I have 3 people, one goes, I'm screwed. No, that can't work that way. Small companies, like, people interact much more and they know each other much more. So it's not distant relationship that you have in these big corporations where they try to almost push you into being a nice corporate citizen, but it's very cold environment. Now for the negatives, higher workload. Yes, that will happen. The companies don't have enough people, they're usually understaffed, so you work more, usually. 12 to 12 hours, sometimes, yes. But if you do it every day, that's not sustainable. Like, especially if you're siloed and you have to work on one part of the system all the time because it does not work, I need to improve, whatever. And then you become the expert, the only guy who knows this. And like, sorry, no holidays for you. You cannot go because you need, or we need to do something. Like you need to be on call or do something about it. Loads of workarounds and technical debt is number 2. Technologies are usually new and buggy. You will have to scour through GitHub comments or GitLab, whatever the technology is using as a source control. You will have to do that daily almost. You actually will have to look at the Google results page too in these cases because Stack Overflow is not there yet. So you will have to look for loads of answers in different places, which can be quite taxing. And what is known as a technical debt will become soon a technical mortgage, which is usually because of, but also a source of bad habits, which is number 3, bad habits. You might develop a load of them, and it is much easier to do than in a big company because your seniors and peers are not guiding you through the code base that much. You're much more on your own. You have to do loads of work. You're working under stress, and that comes with the bad coding practices. You ignore the standards. You might become a bad team player, especially if you are siloed. And then you have like a hubris where no one can challenge you because you know best. Or I've been with the company from the start. I work on this code for X, Y, Z years, etc. So yeah, you can gain much more bad habits through a small company. So would I recommend working for a big or small company? There's no definitive answer in that one. Sorry guys. But in general, I would start in a big one and learn the technologies that are not commonly used, like in your home computers, or they don't teach you that well in the universities. By the way, if you are on a university, I pity you, because IT degrees are useless. So, you learn your databases, your services, your clusters, whatever, the basics, virtual machines, and I don't know what else, depending on your path. And then after like few years, 5 years or so, when you start to become more senior, you get bored in that company, but you know your stuff, you switch to a smaller company and you gain additional challenges, you get learning opportunities, you get much better career progression, and you probably will enjoy everything about it much more. So that would be my advice. What do you think about that? Please comment below, subscribe, and get notified. And also, if you have any code challenges, please let me know. We can go over this or anything else for that matter. Thank you guys.